Steve, I got in a little trouble yesterday for basically saying I don't have a lot of sympathy for Brittney Griner and what she's going through in Russia. And I referenced the movies Midnight Express and Broke Down Palace, and just like that, I've always had this fear of getting arrested in a foreign country. And I don't understand why Brittney Griner didn't have that fear. And by the way, she pleaded guilty today over in Russia. They say that's kind of a formality. She had no choice to do it. But do you have a lot of sympathy for what Brittney Griner is enduring right now?
You mean for her game of Russian roulette? No. I really don't. You know, when I go into a foreign country, specifically one like Russia, I wouldn't bring my nutritional products. I wouldn't bring Flintstone vitamins. I'm being dead serious. And we have to go out there and play by the rules. And you know what's funny? I want to tie this into something that I watched about 3 weeks ago, and I hope you're sitting down. Looks like you are. I actually enjoyed the 3-part 30 for 30 on the 1996 women's U.S. Olympic basketball team. I got into it. I enjoyed it. And you know what? I had great feelings for most of those players, starting with Lisa Leslie from L.A., because they were patriotic. They loved our country. They played for the right reasons. But there was this one segment when they were marketing this. The WNBA actually took a hold of this and said, okay, we're going to be the sponsors. And when they started doing their promotional packages, they made it a point that the women that were involved in that team, whether it was Cynthia Cooper or Cheryl Swoops, they all had to look feminine. Some of them were a little bit uncomfortable with it, but they understood that there was a bigger picture. Jason, you've referenced this before. The way they look nowadays is a little bit of a turnoff. Let's just be honest with a lot of middle America. The other thing is, individually with Brittney Griner, when she kept wagging the finger at most Americans and basically in her own taciturn way saying most Americans are prejudiced, and then you want to take knees and have protests on behalf of Jacob Blake, you're going to turn off people. So a person like Brittney Griner simply is not going to engender a lot of sympathy. What's that old saying, Jason? The energy you give is the energy you get. I think she's learning a very harsh lesson there.
Steve, I think you make an excellent point. I don't even think it's middle America. Just Brittney Griner and all the tattoos. And at one point, I think she was wearing a nose ring and the hairstyle and the whole. And I want to be crystal clear here. When Brittney Griner was a player at Baylor, I think her freshman year, I became friends with Kim Mulkey, the head coach at Baylor. I've been a Brittney Griner fan and rooting for Brittney Griner. She has not evolved the way that I had hoped, and that I'm not going to speak for Kim Mulkey because I don't know, but you know, Brittney Griner has made consistent choices that have put me at odds with her, and I just, the appearance, the whole tatted up thing and all that, it's just unattractive. I don't even think that's middle America. I think that's most of America. And it's, look, sex appeal works for men and women.
Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons why Michael Jordan was such a big star is because women found him sexy. And, you know, there's a reason why athletes wear uniforms that show off their bodies. It's part of the sex appeal of the whole TV show. And so, Steve, before I circle back to you, I want to ask Jill, do you have a lot of sympathy for what Brittney's going through in Russia? Are you part of the Free Brittney Griner movement?
I think that, you know, every U.S. citizen I would like to have come home at some point. But when you look at Brittney's actions, and the legal team, I watched the live stream this morning on Reuters when they were just outside of the courtroom, and they were saying, oh, Brittney, she pled guilty. She understands that she did what she did, and she needs to be held accountable. And they said, oh, she's a role model in our society, and she needs to understand her actions have consequences. And it's one of those things that when you're in a foreign country, Brittney's trying to live USA Brittney in Russia, and that's not the way that they work. Russia has, you know, they have a lot of laws banning gay promotion to minorities. Putin went through in 2013 and said, you cannot promote gay culture in our minorities or in our minors. You can't go through and do that. And it's like trying to bring all of our United States values and imposing that in Russia, I think would play a role in this, because it's not a huge offense. It's, little vape cartridges or whatever, but that is still illegal in Russia. And I would be doing everything I could not to be a part of that. I work a World Junior tournament every year for NHL Network. And the next one this year over Christmas and New Year's was supposed to be in Russia before all these geopolitical tensions were escalating. The last time it was there was the year before I started, so about 10 years ago. And they were in Ufa, Russia. And there was a very white American man, and he was in a part of town where he wasn't supposed to be and kind of got cornered by some Russians. And he had a German minor and could speak fluent German. And he said, no, I'm not an American. I'm German. And he talked his way out of it, got back to his group and back to his hotel. But it's just not a way that you would want to go out on a limb as an American in Russia. So I do have sympathy for her, because I don't want her, to be rotting in jail forever. But you have to understand things are different.
There's a cluelessness to Brittney and a lot of athletes, and I used to be one, and I used to be very clueless because, again, when you spend so much time focused on developing your physical body, a lot of times that doesn't leave a lot of time to develop your worldview and your intellectual part of yourself. And so to not realize, hey, yes, I'm making this $1 million or whatever over here playing basketball in Russia, but I'm in a country that's really, really hostile to my lifestyle and has some pretty hard and fast rules as it relates to drugs. She's completely unaware of all of that. And that's what, Steve, baffles me. You live out there in Los Angeles. I'm a big Bill Placke fan. I think he's a great columnist. He wrote a column the other day that basically blamed America for what's going on with Brittney Griner in Russia. And I'm like, make this make sense for me. Russia's got all the hostility towards black people, gays, Americans. They're the ones that have incarcerated. How is this America's fault? That just completely baffles me. And how come we can't hold Brittney Griner to a standard? She's 31. She's played abroad for a number of years. Do some homework. This isn't a 17-year-old kid. This isn't Michael Fay in Singapore doing something stupid as a kid. This is a grown woman that's traveled abroad for many, many years, who's clueless. So again, that undermines some of my sympathy.
Again, Bill Placke. All right, Bill, you get to go to the cookout. You're invited. Get to go to the cookout. You're good. Here's the reality, though, of mainstream corporate media in that role. Even if you felt a different way, there's two dynamics here. Number one, you may not be able to express that, hey, that's Brittney's fault. That's on her. She broke the laws, and she must be accountable. Number two, and I'm not saying this about Bill, because Bill's a pretty courageous guy, even though I may disagree with him on this particular stance. A lot of guys don't want the blowback. A lot of women do not want the blowback of flat out saying, no, that's her fault, it's on her. And then they don't want, I mean, look, you literally had L. Duncan, old L.E.L., saying, I'm going to be courageous by not reading my comments. Yeah, okay, that's not exactly like Washington crossing the Delaware.